that was good timing because that's it's now 8 o'clock here, I think. So we have reached the end of the presentations, and the next step is a bit of an experiment to try to have a bit deeper conversation than we have had on previous conferences, and try to actually find try to reach some progress on what do we need to do on the moon. I'll share my screen. Let's see, it should be that screen. I don't have much on that, but there should be something. Let's see if that works. Yeah, I guess you see it regardless of which screen. So that was.
I still see Veronica's.
Okay. Can you stop sharing, please?
Yeah, I'm trying to get there. Hold on a second. I have a small screen that is in the way. There, I was trying to look for it. Yeah, okay, great.
Perfect.
So we now declared the workshop open, and I'm the host for that today. And the theme of today is lunar exploration for development. That was the entire day of presentations, and the questions were what to look for and how to look, and how does a moon colony fit into a multiplanetary society, and why. And we can take up anything within that frame, really, but I would give a bit more detail about what I think we should talk about, but I'll let it develop as it does. So lunar exploration for development. I mean, this is the Lunar Development Conference, so we should look at how do we develop the moon. And I would like us to brainstorm what we need to find out about the moon, because this day has been about exploration mainly. A bit of bookkeeping. We're gonna put the results of this in some form in the book of abstracts. So if you want to be referenced there, write your name in the chat here now, and we will put those names in. And I'm open for discussion about the goal, but my suggestion is an exhaustive list that researchers like us can use to plan the next project and to help identify knowledge gaps about the moon, but also about what we should do on the moon. So that's a bit of a lead up and introduction to this session. Any comments or ideas? Is this a good idea to start with? What should we do?
So we need to find out about the moon to survive there.
Yeah, I think this is a good idea. I'll be a bit of a broken record here and say that I mean, one of the things that we need to do to learn how to survive on the moon is do it on Earth first. So set up habitats here on Earth that are similar to what we're going to have on the moon, and that's going to get us a big leg up.
Yeah, well, the climate there is different, right? The location is super important. The southern part, Shackleton, I think it's called, is a good area. So choosing the right area is super important. And having enough resources that can last for the time you're going to be there. For example, you're going to need something to entertain the crew, right? And also how to stay healthy. For example, meditation, music, right? And this has to do mostly with the hobbies that people have, what their interests are, right?
Yeah. That's good. Good input from both of you. Abdulaziz?
Yes, the location, I have just one question about the location, because the Shackleton or the South and North Pole, and especially the South Pole, is somehow very hard to land on. Okay. Why not start with what Apollo started? Okay. In the equator or around the equator, where you can build the habitat and go do research or do excavation, all of that, so that, because at the end of the day we need water. Okay, and water, what we understand, is in the South Pole, but it's not easy to land in the South Pole, and we saw it in many of the landers in the last 2 or 3 years. Okay, they didn't manage to do that. That's my understanding.
Yeah. So
Thanks.
you want to have an investigation about which places are easier to land on, or rather, in a decision on where to land, you have to consider both resources and landing possibilities.
Yes.
Maybe there's one place to land and another
Wait, Veronica.
place to live.
There are two hands
Okay,
raised.
sorry,
Please.
I didn't see.
It's kind of widely acknowledged that the lava tubes would be really valuable real estate. There was some mention in one of the presentations about how there's like 200 potential openings have been found. Does someone have an actual list of the locations on the moon for all of those? Because on the heading of what should be explored, that would be a really good place to start the exploration.
There is a map that China produced that had like kind of mineral sites mapped out not that long ago, and it's a very in detail map. I think having a list based on where certain resources are that we would need, and kind of a map for railway networks that lead to those places, so that you could basically have a landing site where you build your main colony, and then you have railways that lead out to different mining outposts that kind of feed into that main colony complex. That way you can centralize all your manufacturing, refining, and your storage, rather than having, different sites. They could all feed kind of a rail system that you could fill boxcars with ore and ship it to your main complex and then refine what you need. That would be beneficial to have like a map of where those mining sites might be and where the main colony could kind of exist. Just food for thought.
Yeah, so that's 2 votes, I think, for finding out a set of landing sites which we could use. I think we have Stuart and Matt raised hands. I think Stuart was first of those.
So one of the key things is the lack of carbon and nitrogen on the moon. And so the solution to either how to import large quantities of those or figure out technologies that we can do without carbon and nitrogen, which maybe we could do without nitrogen. I'm not sure about carbon. That seems pretty difficult. But there needs to be a significant plan on what to do about that. Because if you're going to have large-scale habitations, you got to have a lot of carbon, a lot of nitrogen.
Yeah. So find out how to do without, or probably not without, but with less of carbon and nitrogen. Yeah.
Or how to import large amounts of it easily, like you can ship it from Mars, for instance.
Use it for propellant and make sure that you have too much. Yeah. So Matt Engel.
I just had a comment about the lunar lava tubes. Because the moon has such low obliquity, as you get closer and closer to the poles, it becomes harder and harder to differentiate craters from lava tubes. So most of the lava tubes that we know about, I think, are between 50 degrees north and 50 degrees south for that reason.
Oh, it's for that reason. That was interesting. I didn't know. Okay. So we need to find another way of finding lava tubes closer to the poles, if there are some. Ulf?
One main thing about lunar development is mining, and most mining on Earth is heavily depending on water for all kinds of processes. And even if you find large amounts of lunar ice, I still think that water will be in a very small supply. So we'll need to invent more mining methods less dependent on water.
Yeah. Even if there is plenty of water, it will not be that plenty that we will want to poison it with mining byproducts. I agree on that.
Yes.
Lasers will help in this, where we can use laser power to cut through materials as we can generate more power. That might be helpful.
Yeah, problem with cutting material with laser is that you don't really separate the different constituents, which you use a lot of water for in mining. Yeah. So any further? That was a fair bit. I have tried. Yeah, Ulf.
When we are talking about lunar development, we also must think more about the economic issues, what the bases and cities or persons there actually will do in order to get incomes. And since the moon is quite close to Earth, I would suppose lots of work could be done on the moon, but that will be related to Earth, more or less. Like, for instance, data centers, like services for Earth, but depending on telecommunication from the moon, like harvesting energy that actually ultimately is used on Earth. So I think we need to think about economic models that also connects to Earth, because in this context we are talking about the moon as it is a very isolated place. It is, of course, but still quite close to Earth and not unrelated to Earth. So I think we should think more about what the lunar people could do to provide services and products for Earth.
And for orbits as well, I think. So yeah.
Yes. Yes.
They'll also need to be able to provide for themselves in that sense. So having jobs that kind of are respective of the industrial technology tree will be essential. On Sunday, I'll cover more about that in my presentation about the all matter machine.
Yeah, Frank.
Yes, I was wondering, we discussed a lot about lunar settlement on the surface. Are there any plans to expand or utilize Lagrange points or lunar orbits, either for industrial applications or tourism or whatever?
Yeah, that's a good question. A question there in that context is also, is that within scope for this conference? But let's keep it for now. I'm not saying it was a good, it's a good question regardless.
We could expand in the footnotes whenever we have time. I'm sure people would be interested.
There tend to be at least a couple of presentations about cislunar applications. So yeah, it's probably included. Stuart?
I just wanted to know, there's a book that I put in the chat called Electrostatic Mineral Separation. And so that technology has been looked at. So that's a way to do the mining, to do the separation on the moon without water.
Yeah, sounds great. And that you still need to grind it very fine. I guess it needs to be finer for electrostatic separation and for than if you have water that you can use.
Correct. Yes, you need to grind it really finely. It's it's kind of like a mass spectrometer. The same principle as a mass spec, right?
Yeah. Then. Oh, I think
maybe we could boil the regolith to get the water out.
Yep. I was saying one of the things we need to get a lot more data on is the lunar seismic environment. It doesn't get a lot of talk, but it happens pretty regularly from the little data that we have. And while they're not super powerful, they do last a long time. So we need to figure out what that environment is before we actually start designing habitats.
Yeah. Any other dangers than seismic? I mean, that's a good start on the list. What are the dangers on the moon? Plenty.
Well, I mean, we've talked about this, Nicholas. I mean, obviously the regolith is a problem, radiation, bombardment,
Yeah.
vacuum. Those are kind of like the big ones.
Yeah. Good.
Temperature fatigue too, if you're exposed to the sun.
Yep, that's true.
Definitely thermal fatigue on the surface, yes. Actually, the thermal environment, even if it's not, it's a danger and an opportunity. So that should probably be in power generation. Nobody has suggested it, but that's the one thing. I'll put that down. Power generation. That's and thermal is one possibility there. One is photovoltaics, of course. That's the one most people talk about, and then we have nuclear. The two presentations about that later. But also, what you could use the thermal gradients to drive a Stirling engine, so that there might be slightly out of phase of the photovoltaics.
Well, something else that should be talked about, the mineral separation for ISRU. We had a presenter several years ago. His company does regolith simulants, and he was talking about how they had a real problem actually getting the material to flow because, the regolith is very jagged. It tends to lock.
Mm.
And so a lot of these things like beneficiation or electrostatic separation or magnetic separation tends to get locked up if you're using raw regolith because the material does not flow properly in a processing format.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to process that material in some way to maybe reduce the jaggedness so then it will flow properly through your equipment.
You have to melt it and then cast it and crush it again.
Or run it through like a rock tumble or something to knock those edges off so that it would flow more properly.
Yeah.
Of course, you can also just avoid the regolith altogether and go down to the mega regolith, which is much more solid and does not have that fine jagged dust, or at least very little of it.
Yeah. Matt?
One thing that I've seen that was used to improve the flowability of like fine regolith particles was to just vibrate whatever method you're trying to convey the particles with. So whether that's just conveying chutes that it's sliding down, or if it's actually vibrating a like the treads of a track that you're trying to bring the regolith grains down, that seems to improve the flowability a lot.
Yeah, that's used in terrestrial mining as well.
And it's often used with water too. It's usually not a dry process. And from as I understand it, the raw regolith, the vibration makes it worse because it tends to get those jaggedness to lock up. And so it's kind of the reason why the astronauts had such a hard time getting those core samples through that top layer of regolith, because the moon has been shaken for eons, and all that fine jagged regolith has locked into position, making a very difficult substance to cut through. So from what I understand, the few experiments that have been done with vibrating platforms to get the regolith to move just cause it to lock up even more, unless you like maybe put a water into it, in which case, you know, you can do that.
Or air actually. I mean, fluidized beds is something that is used for coal combustion plants that needs to have quite thin.
Yeah, I've seen that where you can like blow air along it and it supposedly breaks it up, but you know, you're now introducing one, you're not doing it in vacuum anymore, right? Which is one of the big things that people like to talk about. And two, blowing air through fine regolith powder probably isn't good for anybody's health or the equipment, right?
You shouldn't breathe it in. No, true. Stuart?
And then that fine dust is just going to get all over your equipment too. And we all know what regolith dust does to equipment.
Yeah.
So we have this idea that people are going to be out on the moon in spacesuits, but I think that's very unrealistic because the radiation environment. I did this calculation for Mars, but it's basically a few hours on the surface is equivalent to getting a chest X-ray. So, I mean, it's okay to do every now and then, but it's not something that you're going to want to do every day. So, in that light, I think that like a VR-controlled humanoid robot, that's going to be the way that people move around on the surface of the moon. And so that would be an area of technology that needs to be developed.
Mm. Would that robot, it would be some difference to VR robot on Earth, obviously, but is that the main development issue to get the VR robots lunar certified, so to speak?
I think more than a humanoid, you'd have more like a toolbox that can be mobile, and then you can have a modular toolkit.
Yeah, that's another point there. Ulf?
But even just for exploring.
Sorry,
right?
Yeah, continue. Sorry.
So, speaking about the
wait, Stuart had a comment there first.
I was going to say just for having fun, right? If you want to go exploring on the moon and you want to have a blast, right? You just get your humanoid robot and you just go out, right? You're all in VR. So it's not just about working, it's also about play.
Yeah, true. Yeah, okay, sorry.
But robot dogs, there are robot dogs that can carry heavy things. So that can save a lot of work and time. So that's important to take into consideration, that they're not just there for decoration purposes or whatever, but they can actually help you, especially when you have to, unload things from the spaceship, right? Rocket ship, whatever. Yeah. So you need to carry it to the. Another thing that is important, I think, is to think about a place that you are going to build to live in the meantime very fast, right? While you, construct the other habitat where you will be, more secure, living for a longer time. So that's also important.
Yeah.
I have a great solution.
Ulf has had his hand up for a long time here.
Right.
I have a great solution. We combine the ideas and make a centaur.
Speaking about back to regolith and small rocks and pebbles, we need efficient methods of sintering or melting regolith on the surface in order to make, for instance, platforms for where rockets start, or making roads that are dust-free or rather regolith-free. Because when a rocket starts on the moon, it could drive stones and small pebbles very far and destroying the base, and some stones might even reach orbit on the moon. And if we have regolith-free roads for traveling on, we will reduce the dust problem with regolith. But that makes it necessary to find good technologies and methods of melting or sintering the regolith on the surface.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting rid of the regolith of the surface, and yeah, melting and sintering, yes. Good. Frida?
Okay, well, Ben, you started the meeting with what the organization should be doing in the future.
Mhm.
And it seems to me that one of the very important functions that the organization serves is that you're taking the developments of individuals or small teams, some of whom have made private small companies. You make that information available to the big companies and to the big programs that may have the money to make some of these things realities.
Yeah,
So
I mean, that would be
I
great.
agree with that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see the Moon Society be the big tent, right? That everybody goes to share information and maybe even resources. So that would be great.
well, I just think that this organization is doing a very important job at this particular moment, because I don't know about if any of you knew of my existence, but I didn't know about anybody else's existence practically. I mean, I knew a few of you. Anyway, I just want to thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Frida. And yeah, that is something that we should be doing. I agree. Ben?
Oh, hey, in the same vein of stuff we need for exploration for development, we need to get a much better handle on the characterization of the mega regolith. We know very little about its composition, how it's put together, just a few data points from a couple of lunar seismographs, and that's about it. So that would be high on my list to find out what exactly we're dealing with, especially in the mare.
Digging deeper on the moon, we only know the surface, and the
Yeah, I mean, only the surface.
the deepest measure is about a meter down, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it maybe a little bit more. It's not more than 2. So yeah, we definitely got to get below 2 meters.
Yeah. Dig down, all right. Good. Anything else? There was one presentation today was about geophysics of the moon. It's maybe not sufficient to just dig down. We need to know a bit more about how to build on the moon.
Right. I was going to say, in lieu of digging down initially, there's a lot of craters that have already dug down. So we haven't done any exploration in craters, right? So maybe that would be the next step. Instead of digging down would be let's characterize the different strata in the craters. Let's look at some of that exposed mega regolith and test that first before we actually, because digging down is actually a much bigger step.
Good point. Then again, learning how to dig down is also important.
Well, I agree with you on that, but I'm saying probably easier to start looking into craters before we actually start doing like large excavations.
Yep, indeed.
If there was a crater within a crater, it might represent a easier way for us to cap a dome, because it's already kind of solidified and then dug out even further within that. So looking for a crater within a crater might actually be the first ideal place to look.
Okay.
Yeah, I've read some stuff with craters that one of the problems with doming them is that the surrounding material, the bedrock, has had a lot of impact shock damage, right? So there's an awful lot of cracks and breakage in there. So you would also have to make sure you seal up that crater. You couldn't expect it to hold pressure.
Yeah, you would have to create a base, but at least it might be further down than the regolith, so it would be kind of dug out.
Oh, I mean, it's not something to ignore, definitely. But I think that I think it would be a higher technical challenge than actually building an underground settlement first. Because if you're actually digging it out and constructing it as you're digging it, you know the parameters, right? You know the material structures that you're building. You're not relying on unknown natural materials that are going to have a lot of variability as you continue to build.
Oh yeah, 100%. If you're digging into something that's solid, then that's a much better idea than using pre-existing.
There's a fair bit more work to be done on the siting, whether it's supposed to be whether underground capping a hole or lava tubes. Stuart.
I'm thinking about one of the original topics, which was the economics. Presumably, there's going to be a lot of manufacturing of stuff on the moon to ship back to the Earth. So one thing we should identify is what is it that we can make on the moon that's going to be marketable on Earth, and then along with that is the shipping infrastructure back, because we can ship a lot of stuff very easily from the moon, with like a rail gun, something like that. So that then makes the economics of having moon bases or moon settlements much better.
Yeah. Economics of mining and shipping back, yes. And figuring out what as well. That's a good point.
So helium-3 will be one of them, but then finding a means to be able to package and ship it, possibly by railgun, to orbit, maybe where there could be a relay station of some sorts, maybe a shipyard that could eventually be in orbit that you could kind of launch the helium-3 to the shipyard to catch, and then for manufacturing purposes, you could utilize it there. That could be one thing you could do.
Yep. Well,
speaking about economics, as a comment to Stuart, I think we have to see this in what kind of time frame are we talking about? In the very first pioneer period, I'm sure that you can export rocks from just ordinary rocks or stones from the moon to sell as moon rocks. As the same way as Sweden export elk poo to Germans when we have German tourists in Sweden. But that's not what I intended to say. Speaking about human welfare on the moon, I'm quite sure that we need to have plants and vegetation inside our habitats. All the research points out that humans need contact with nature, not only plants and growing things that you put in your mouth, but parks and almost forests, maybe in a mini scale to enjoy. And it's a technical and biological issue to make very small parks or forests that could be planted inside larger habitats on the moon. I think that will be an important issue in the near future.
If we can grow grapes on the moon and make lunar wine, that would be a good export back to Earth. Or rye that could export lunar whiskey. Of things of this kind of nature, I think would be an important technological feasibility to see if you could do it in space, but also for the collector's item capacity, it might be a few $1,000s for a couple shots of whiskey from the moon, and there could be some value in that. So merchandise of that kind of nature, I think, has a potential market that could help support it. could also be a potential industry on the moon that could create jobs and also provide some recreational relief from the stresses that might come from space living.
Yeah, so should add that to ship back goods to be produced on the moon and shipping back with luxury products such as whiskey and wine. I think Ben has had their hand up for a while. You're muted.
I am. Yep. You're talking about site selection. You know where my favorite site is, right?
Yes.
Right at the geographical center, because that's a unique point on the moon where we could theoretically build a lunar space elevator. And no other place on far side will do for that. There's just one spot, and I think that's where we should be characterizing. And that's where maybe that should be where the first place is, because we could theoretically build the lunar elevator using current materials, and then you've got your transportation hub, and then you've got an economical way to ship things to and from.
Yep, it's the only place on the near side. The far side, there is another place. But
I did say near side. I did say near side.
No, you said far side actually. But
I did. Sorry, my bad.
Yes, it's the only place on the near side. I'm agreeing with you.
And you're right. There is one on the far side, but technically more challenging and probably not as useful.
No. The near side points directly towards Earth. It's the right direction for.
Well, you also have the gravitational balance of Earth. If you build one on far side, it's got to be much longer and have a much bigger counterweight. So much more difficult.
Yes, I agree. Briar?
Yeah, so one thing I can see coming is the like there's the old NASA plan for getting to the moon, and they talk about, I can't remember the name of it, but they talked about shipping electronics and stuff up and the stuff that you can't produce easily there, and working from producing the like lower tech components, beams, structures, and then eventually working up to electronics. And Frank showed me a guy who is working on vacuum tubes for I think it was vacuum tubes at regolith or something like that. Cool. So exploring like all the different materials available, and then can we make transistors, vacuum tubes, fluidics, what systems can we make out of the materials there, and would they even be worth it in the meantime, since it's going to be so costly, but long term the price will come down. That's beyond my area, but I can see that from my work. That would be extremely handy if there was a feasible way to build a, automation for like a hospital, and you could build a rig that, tracks and helps with diagnostics and predictive medicine, stuff like that. And if we could do that without having to ship in a ton of circuitry and just have like a 3D printer or something printing out logic modules you could just chain together, this is all speculating, but I could see that being useful if that's something to roadmap out.
Yeah, so what you suggest is to manufacture things that could replace more complex products from Earth.
Yeah, it would be like instead of an integrated chip or something like that, you'd have a vacuum tube array. It'd be massive, but if you could make it from regolith on site, it might be worth it. It might not. I don't know.
It's a good point, worth investigating. And when you said vacuum, that's also a resource that is unique. Well, much cheaper on the moon in inverse of everything else, which is more expensive on the moon. But vacuum is actually very cheap, and you can use it in the vacuum tubes, obviously. But you can also use it for a lot of different types of manufacturing. Ulf?
To continue what Brian said, I think the Moon Society someday should have a larger workshop or think session on what are the specific conditions on the moon that only exists on the moon that could actually produce products or then let's say you said the vacuum, Niklas, but you can also say lower gravity.
Yeah.
And I suppose when you grow plants or trees on the moon, they will get much longer because plant growth is regulated by gravity. And I'm quite sure that we can produce, let's say, extreme plants on the moon that it's not possible on Earth. And if you have, let's say, 14 days of pure sunlight, perhaps that could be utilized. And things that are problems, like dust from regolith, will, of course, someday produce solutions that could be exported back to Earth. And then seeing all these specific conditions on the moon as a sort of necessary condition or prerequisite for making new products that are economically important also for Earth.
Yeah, good idea with the workshop. We have been thinking about other things we could do to balance this once a year conference. Frank?
Yes, one thing that I hadn't considered before the previous comment is that given that we're going to make enclosed biomes on the moon at some point, we don't necessarily have to have the same atmospheric composition that we have here on Earth. We could have higher CO2 or O2 or other gases, different concentrations for, say, if we were to grow wood for mechanical properties, we could achieve higher density, or maybe, I don't know, larger chickens or whatever. It could be something that could be explored. Hyperbarics too, because I think these are medical applications. These could be very interesting to explore, even just for analog setups here on Earth.
Yeah.
Crystal growth is also affected by atmosphere. So crystal growth could be much different on the moon as well because of the variables that are there. It would be very interesting to see where that field of research could go.
Yeah. Stuart?
Yeah, along those same lines, you can grow like coffee. Like on Earth, coffee only grows in specific regions, but on the moon, if you have the ability to control the climate, then you can make a perfect coffee growing environment, and you can grow the best coffee ever and then ship it back to Earth. Or similar thing with grapes, right? But actually, what I was going to say was the other thing that should be on the list is the tourism opportunities, because the way this thing works on the Earth is we still have a lot of very rich people, and so it'd be very good to figure out ways to extract money from them by giving them nice tourist opportunities, like being able to fly, right? That's a very cool thing that becomes possible on the moon.
Yeah. And for those that can't afford to go there, to have sports, the Lunar Olympiad with you jump higher, which is kind of boring because it takes 6 times as long time as well. But you can fly and you can do funny racket sports, things like that. So tourism and entertainment I will put in there because there are much more people who want to dream than will actually do it. Yes, Frida.
I think it's very good that you're thinking about real ways of making a lunar colony useful, but I think national pride and international competition are some of the very strong forces that are acting in the immediate future. The fact that a country can get a great deal of, I don't know how to express it in monetary units, but to be able to say that we have done something that nobody else could do, and that our weapon system is undoubtedly at least as good as our international moon station or whatever. That I think a lot of the politics to date have been a matter of showing off national pride, and by implication, our weapon system.
So what do we need to find out about that? I'm trying.
Well, I just think that is certainly part of the budgeting system. Now, I don't know how much money is spent by NASA as compared to how much money is spent by these various companies that have formed, or companies like Boeing Aircraft, that have put into it in the hope that they're going to make future monies. A lot of individuals, as demonstrated here, are obviously using their talents to develop programs that might be useful for space travel. But I think that national pride and international competition has been a major part of the funding to date.
Yeah. Good. Priya?
Building on what Frank said there, I read about a mechanical agitation method for plants where like you stimulate between the nodes and it decreases the volume of the plant, but it doesn't decrease how much it produces. And if we could get a database of all the different techniques and stuff from all the different fields compiled together, that way it won't be, it would, I don't know, I think that might be useful. That's all.
Yeah, so you suggest that we look into what different conditions affect plants so that we can draw conclusions beforehand on what would happen on the moon.
Yeah, like
This sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay, I think Stuart was before Ben.
So speaking about governments and stuff makes me think about security. So we're talking about having large numbers of people living on the moon. So the security concerns are, they have some unique aspects on the moon in terms of how do you protect your colonies against bad actors. That's something that needs to go on the list.
Yes.
Yeah. Cyber attacks. I mean,
Frontier justice.
Cyber
but
attacks
it's
are
also
getting
just people getting frustrated and angry. I mean, I think that was one of the important presentations, that you just reach the stage where you're not ready to end your project, but you're damn frustrated and you're mad as hell, and you want to take it out against some of your teammates. So the security thing is going to be really important.
That's where meditation comes in, meditation techniques, music, having hobbies. For example, there's this mudra band that you put a band here, and you can, with gestures, you can, interact with your devices and even paint. So that would be nice to paint, those kind of things. Yeah.
I don't know if Metal wants to comment. I mean, that was her presentation.
Yeah. Metal.
I was very impressed by that.
So this is where you get into certain ethical issues. A couple people had asked about ethics before, and when you get into anything beyond just supporting mental health, when you say someone is a bad actor, are there bad actors, or are there just people with problems that they do not know how to solve, or emotions that they don't know how to regulate? But what if somebody has a belief system that clashes with somebody else's belief system? What if someone believes that, collective action should, have more precedence than individual opinion or belief? At what point do you say, okay, well, this person is out of line with the synchrony of the group? It could be through negative or manipulative behavior, and you could, in these situations, you offer someone therapy. And a lot of times people who have, maybe they suffer from narcissism or have manipulative tendencies or something like that, their families might pressure them to go get therapy. and only when threatened with extreme loss, losing their job, losing their family, losing something really important, will they actually be willing to just go and get therapy. But when you have an isolated environment, it brings up the question, should people really have that much of a choice? Because, you know, if you're just like, well, I just don't want to get therapy, and then you snap and become violent, you know, we have less room to run, literally, just less ways to get away. You can't just pick up your family and move to a different town and hope they don't follow you. It doesn't, you know, so at some point you have to ask, do the rules and ethics of how you run society there change, of how you run community?
Yeah, Metal, I want to give you, there's a series of books called Red Mars, Green Mars, Blue Mars.
Yeah,
And
by
one of the
Robinson.
first conflicts is whether you should terraform Mars or whether there might possibly be some hidden life that you're going to destroy if you change the atmosphere of Mars. And I also think that sometimes what the world needs, and maybe what this colony would need, is a Yom Kippur religious holiday in which you are supposed to apologize to anybody that you have harmed. And if they refuse to accept your apology, then it's their fault. And I don't know whether very many people are aware of that aspect of the holiday, but in theory, you apologize to anybody that you've harmed. And maybe we all need that.
So in that vein, if you think of, you know, each person as their own ecosystem, each person has grown and evolved throughout their life circumstances, and they are a homeostatic ecosystem. So someone might have beliefs and practices that are based on their ecosystem. And if you think of it that way, then it becomes a matter of how do you accommodate all of these different ecosystems. And you can do you can inject ritual into it, and there are lots of different, you know, practices and rituals that you can draw from to help cultural cohesion and stuff like that. I am currently working on the mathematical modeling of ethics, about figuring out how do we all derive our perspectives on ethics? How do we derive our feelings of, I believe this? Because I personally, I'm a Quaker, and that philosophy is that everyone has a piece of the truth, but we just don't see the whole truth. And if we were to all combine our collective truths, then we would reveal the whole truth. And that basically means everyone is right about the things that they feel. I feel right about this. But they just might not see that everyone else is right about that too. And if you can kind of figure out, okay, well, what does everybody kind of sort of agree is right? And, you know, there's differentiation here. So then you kind of just go here and model that layer of abstraction, and there you reveal.
I'm trying. This is very interesting, actually, but I'm trying to find out what is it we need to find out in order to advance Moon from in this context.
Well, once the modeling is down for that, then you can determine how to approach community structuring. Because when you're in these isolated environments, it has to be planned out. There's not going to be room for it. You know, you can't be like, oh, let's philosophically debate ethics while we're already here doing the work. It has to be figured out beforehand. There has to be rules that everyone can agree upon before they go into that situation.
So
well, maybe a training.
So the goal here is to model ethics for a small isolated community. Essentially, is that a good summary of this?
Yes, and in any situation, including this, whatever achieves the most thermodynamic stability of all systems, including emotional, that is the highest modelable ethics that you can have.
That's a good definition. I like thermodynamics in the context.
Have you handled politics?
Yeah, everyone believes something for some reason. And then they all have moon politics that will emerge, I'm sure.
I think we need to go on there. Ben has had the hand up for a very long time. You are muted.
I know. I was just going to remind everybody that the Moon Society does have the beginnings of a database in Lunarpedia. So if you want to contribute to that with ideas or information or data or even just links to places, contact us. We'll get you access, and you can start adding to, this central repository of data we're trying to collect.
Yeah, I can sort of add to that, but that I'm trying to keep notes here, but it's a lot. So I think I'm gonna run this session through an AI and ask it to summarize it.
That is important, yeah. But we need to find collaborations and build this space-based economy here on Earth, and then building on the moon. But I think we have to put these things together, right? So yeah, this is about gaps, and it's important. But I would like to have this conversation that we're having now more often, right? It would be nice because we all have different backgrounds, and this is what is very interesting, right? We have different perspectives, but this is where we can come up with very good ideas, actually, right?
Yeah. Thank you for that comment. Stuart?
I think one of the things is we need to avoid some of the issues that we've had on Earth, like designing cultures. Like one of the issues is we tend to think in terms of what's the one best one and try to get the one best one, which kind of doesn't really make sense. If really what you want is the many. You want many solutions, and then more like a life model where you have lots of solutions. So instead of trying to find the best, we find the multiple, right? The multiple ones that work. And so those are things that, they're just kind of things that have existed in our cultures on the Earth that we don't want to carry to the moon.
Yeah.
Right. We want to fix them here on Earth too, of course, first. But those are things that we should watch out for. So it's not a technical thing, but it's it's an important factor.
Yeah,
I think
peace is number one.
I don't think it must be technical. We can discuss whatever that is relevant for the moon, I think.
So,
well, peace is number one. Consciousness, being more aware of the world around you and the people. So peace is number one. Yeah.
I think it could be technical because you have an ecosystem, and even on different lunar bases, each one might have an emergent ecosystem. You have each person is an ecosystem. Together, they form an emergent ecosystem. And what stability means for that ecosystem might be different than the system of stability for another ecosystem. And I think that's why we've evolved so many different cultures on Earth, is because each of us, we all live in different environments, and we all combine with different people in different environments, and different belief structures and ways of living, ways of achieving stability are different for each of those environments.
I think it comes down to acts of stewardship and also acts of being the apex steward. So we have to be responsible in our dominance of the habitats that we decide to occupy.
Yeah. Ulf has had his hand up for a very long time.
Yes, we're talking about what is necessary to have on the moon. And I would like to stress the importance of, let's say, basic human physical needs. I'm thinking about food, water, and air. And we need much better solutions on the moon to make use of the resources we get there on recycling wastewater, recycling organic waste, and all stuff like that. And that's a good thing to have on Earth, but on the moon, it's a very basic necessity, a survival issue, and we should put a bit more emphasis on that.
Good point. Basic needs to be are much more difficult on the moon, and thus recycling has to be harder. I agree completely. And I put it down, regardless of whether I agree or not. Okay, that is been very productive, I think. It was, and we have been at it for an hour. Anybody else wants to add something? Because it seems that we have covered a lot anyway.
Yeah. I think these sessions should be repeated, as someone said earlier. I think it's a good format.
Well, the Moon Society would love to have more of these sessions. We just need to find people that want to lead them and take charge of them. Because we're an all volunteer organization.
This 1 hour session wasn't that difficult to lead, I must admit. So I think I could be interested in repeating this in order to push a kind of joint paper forward.
Yeah, not saying it's difficult, just saying somebody has to step up to do it.
Yeah.
Moon Commander Niklas has been appointed.
Yeah, well, I'm willing to help. I mean, we can decide on a topic. I can do some research, prepare a presentation, short one, not like the one I had today, and we can, discuss things from there onwards. I mean, build on that idea. It depends on how many people we're going to be, also, right? But we have to find a common interest, right? What are the topics that we're going to talk about? It's going to be open, or we're going to have specific topics.
Yeah.
I mean, we can
that's
do that.
building it out. I was hearing now repeat this session. Essentially, I will do a summary of it anyway. I will need AI help for that, but I will do that eventually, and I will put that as part of the proceedings, the book of abstracts.
Right.
And then my idea was to repeat this next year and continue at the next year's conference. But I think it would probably be a good idea to have an intermediate time as well, and probably invite those present now because we have a background in it, and then maybe have more next conference. But I'm open for suggestions there on how to handle an intermediate session. Should it be open, or should it just be us, or should it just be us contributing this to conference?
Well, Niklas, we do have a vehicle for that, right? We do have Mari Cognitum that can run every month. We could have rotating topics.
We could.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I'm not saying we shouldn't have Mari Cognitum and make that into something similar, but I think this is a bit more discussion than we have had in any Mari Cognitum. So I want to capture this energy.
Yeah, maybe we can have workshops, workshops where we learn something, we apply, we learn and apply.
Yes.
And who knows?
Sorry.
Maybe we can have collaborations, across borders, build this space-based economy together.
Yeah. Yes, Stuart.
I had an idea, along the lines of having different topics. Another topic I think would be very, very interesting to discuss as a group would be what's the role of AI in both getting to the stage, doing the development to get to the stage, and also what role does it play in a lunar environment? So because the AI it really does change so many things.
Yeah.
So a lot of things that we're talking about are, they're ideas from the past. And so, but if we look through what the capabilities of AI are or will be in the near future, those problems might look different.
Yeah.
That's super important. That's super important because we are still seeing changes regarding AI. We haven't seen the whole picture yet. It's not very clear. So, yeah.
Or we could have a more stepwise method, doing meetings like this a few more times, and then see, and from there choose themes like AI, like governance, like the moon's physical resources, like recycling, whatever, based on what has happened during the conversations on these, let's say, less structured meetings.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
We will. Please notice that we have 2 more of these workshops, one tomorrow and one the day after. So we might. They have different topics, obviously, but we might continue on a bit on the thoughts about how to continue this entire workshop thingy on those.
You could probably use an entire workshop just reviewing how new technologies change the field. When you get into a field, you might miss new updates to it. Like, how does AI change the nature of research and things like that?
Yeah, new technology, making it a bit wider than AI. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I have one question I would like to ask. If I decide to run this again, which I likely will, essentially the same topic, but a follow-on meeting, say in beginning of next year, January, February sometime, how many would be interested of you that are here now would be interested to participate in that?
I'm interested. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's most everybody with a screen name anyways. Yes,
Yeah.
good. That is fully sufficient. So I will be aiming for doing that. And I think half a year this time. It might be that we need to step it up and have it more often later, but we'll start like that.
We are at a crossroads after all. Better pick up the pace.
Yeah. Great. Any last words from someone?
Thank you for
a very good meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Several good meetings. Yeah. That's. Thank
Okay.
you for
Very
that.
good.
It was an experiment, and I consider it very successful.
Yeah, it was
Great
very
job
good.
to all the presenters. Very, very well done.
Thank you.
We got 2 more days to go.
Yep.
Man, I'm gonna miss you guys when this will be over.
Well, join us in Slack and keep talking about it with us.
Yeah. Well,
you have a Slack channel? I didn't. Oh yeah. Of course. Yeah. Sorry, I got mixed up. Yeah.
Okay, guys, I have to go. See you tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think we're done.
Okay.
So, bye, everybody.
Okay.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.
Bye. Have fun. Bye.
Catch you all in the future.
Thank you for hosting,
Nicholas,
Niklas. That was absolutely terrific.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. I was surprised. No, I thought it would be good, but this was better than I thought.
Yep.
Really,
Good job,
really
Nicholas.
good meeting.
You want to do a a debrief, or you want to just
I'm just waiting to see how long people stay, essentially.
No, you hang up.
That's right.
I'm patient. I'm patient. Cheers.
Yeah, I'm gonna go catch some sun, you guys. I'm gonna have some people over in a couple of, oh, in less than an hour actually. So I'll catch you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow. Cheers.
Well, that went well.
Yeah. Yes, it was. I'm very happy
Dana.
with that. Cheers.
Yeah. Well, that discussion was free ranging, wasn't it?
Yes, that was wide. And I tried to take notes.
Oh, yeah, you're gonna have to go through it again. I'm not even gonna bother taking notes tomorrow for the workshop. I'll watch it again and take notes afterwards.
Yeah, no, I will run it through AI. Actually, I think what I will do is to turn on AI for the workshop.
Oh, do it tomorrow and see what happens.
Because then you get an automatic summary of it. I
right.
accidentally did that for a previous meeting I had, but that was pretty good.
Cool. Yeah, I think tomorrow I'm going to be a little more strict on the topic. I'm going to be like, we're not talking about regulating people's emotions. We're not talking about psychological. We're not talking about economic development. That, I mean, very far ranging
My
and interesting.
question, it was kind of relevant to the question though, because the question what do we need to learn in order to develop the moon? And thinking about people's emotions, yes, that is a valid concern.
I took your topic to be what do we need to know about the moon for exploration?
No. What do we need to explore about the moon for colonization?
I don't know. I think we could have focused more on the physical sciences, but it was an interesting conversation.
Yes, it was. That's the main thing, really.
Yeah, cool.
Yep. Anyway, thank you for that, and see you tomorrow.
I will be here at 7.
Yeah, me too, ish. Cheers.
All right. Well, take it easy, man. I'll see you tomorrow.
See you.